all of that, if you've had any training on autism, you've already heard what I just said. Check the water. That's usually where the training ends. Okay, that's what you get. Check the water, and then it's kind of logical after that. Have you ever thought about why? Have you ever asked yourself, okay, I get that the experts say check the water, but why? Why are our guys on the spectrum drawn towards water? Why do they end up drowning at such a high level? Why are they 160 times more likely to drown than a neurotypical kid? Have you ever wondered why? That question of why will get you pointed in the right direction. Okay, and this is where we're going to tie in all of this that we've covered over the last 2.5 hours with sensory and communication problems. Okay, the big organizations, the big ones, the large advocacy groups, the large missing person organizations, they throw around this term, and I've even used it myself during this training, and it's the term wandering. Wandering prevention or wandering or how to find a wandering individual on the spectrum. I don't want to be the word police, and I don't want to overemphasize this point, but I'm not a fan of this term wandering. Okay, I think it's a bad. It puts us in a bad point of view, a bad perspective when we start our searches. The definition of wandering is to move about without any goal, aim, or course, just to wander, to not have any desired direction or goal. Okay, that's what wandering means in the dictionary. When I think about wandering and the term, what comes to my mind is a zombie or a robot that starts moving in a certain direction, excuse me, and will walk in that direction until they hit a barrier and then bounce off of it and then walk in another direction until they hit another barrier, and they're just kind of aimless and with no rhyme or reason. I've lost my son 5 times. I've already told you this. He has never wandered. Never. There is always a goal, destination, or purpose. There is always a reason. There is always a cause or someplace they are going to or going from, okay? It's never random. They are never just haplessly wandering, okay? Even if they can't communicate it, even if they're nonverbal and they can't communicate what that goal, purpose, or destination was, it's still there. And I will make the point that it's our job as investigators, that's kind of what we do, to investigate what those goals, purposes, and desires were. What's the cause? Approach these calls as an investigator, not just an officer who's responding to an area looking for an 8-year-old autistic kid, quote unquote, wandering. Okay, because just looking for somebody wandering, it puts you're relying on luck. You're relying on chance. You're searching an area and you're putting your best effort in, but there's no logic behind it. There's no science behind it. You're just hoping to get lucky. You're just hoping to run into some kid wandering in the middle of the street or wandering in a backyard. And that mindset of relying on luck and chance is a loser's mindset. It's not going to get us what we need to get done. Your chances are much higher to find the individual that you're looking for if you can approach it as an investigator and find out what their motives were, what's their goal, what's their destination, what set them off, and what caused the behavior. That will start you in a direction where now you're relying on information and science as opposed to random chance. I hope that makes sense. I want to help you in that, okay? There's 4 simple questions you can ask to get the ball rolling. After you ask the basic questions that we already covered, what are they wearing? Do they think they're going to be in trouble? Those questions. Now you want to start really delving into the individual and finding out what is the cause, what was the goal or destination of the behavior, okay? And these 4 simple questions will get you there. This is how you turbocharge your searches, okay? Number 1. What do they love? Simple. What do they love? Hello, Mrs. Smith. I know this is a traumatic time for you. I know you're scared, and there's an army of people on their way. We're going to help you. We're going to find little Timmy. Just tell me real quick, what does he love? And then shut up and let her talk. What does he love? Let her tell you about her son. Okay? She'll give you a list. I can give you a list right now as long as you'll let me talk about what my son loves. A lot of it won't apply. Okay, a lot of it'll just be just noise. But in that list, you're going to get some gold nuggets. Okay, well, Timmy loves pizza, and he loves his grandfather, and he loves Sesame Street, and he loves Batman, and he really loves swimming and the beach in the summertime, and just let her talk. Okay, as she's rattling off all these things that she loves, in there is really good intelligence about this child. All right, so if I'm hearing these things and he loves pizza, the first thing I'm doing is sending a team of people to find out every pizza place in the neighborhood and go there. If he loves his grandfather, okay, where does his grandfather live? Is he close by? If he's not close by, do you drive there a lot, and does he know the way? I'm going to put somebody on the route to the grandfather's house. He loves to swim. Boom, boom, boom. That's a red flag. He loves to swim. Okay, we're going to check everybody within 7 miles of this place. Things like that will get you pointed in the right direction. All right? It's a lot better than just, okay, little Timmy's autistic, he's 8 years old, let's flood the zone and we'll whip out a map and just put sectors. You're going to have to get there eventually. It just becomes a large-scale search and sector off the map. But initially, I want to approach it with some intelligence and some information. And I hope that makes sense. So number one is, what do they love? Number two, you guessed it, what do they hate? Wow, Mrs. Smith, Timmy sounds like a great little kid. I love a lot of those things too. Let me ask you this: what really bugs him? What sets him off? What can't he stand? And let her talk and listen, and she'll rattle off a list. I know I could. Well, he can't stand when he gets sand in his toes, and he can't stand tags in his shirt, and he can't stand being hot, and he really hates the smell of hot dogs when I cook them, and he hates when babies cry. That really sets him off. And just go down the list. A lot of these things won't apply, but in there you're going to get some nuggets. All right. You're getting a sensory profile of little Timmy. He doesn't like tags, doesn't like sand in his shoes, he doesn't like being hot. That's telling you that he's a very sensory individual. And this is going to point back to what we started with that sensory area. All right. It's telling you a lot about this individual. And then you listen. Just shut up for a minute and listen. He hates babies crying. Well, is a neighbor outside in the backyard and with a newborn and the child is crying? That may be just enough where you're like, okay, maybe he just couldn't stand the noise and he had to get away to someplace quiet. All right, let her talk and then use that information and apply what we've covered over all these hours to little Timmy and apply this to them. But you only get there by asking the question. What do they love? What do they hate? Now you have some information to work with. All right. Number three, what was the plan? Remember the plan. I covered this personally with my son. That plan is strong. So just ask her, okay, I understand I'm getting a picture of little Timmy. Now, Mrs. Smith, let me ask you, what were you going to do today? What was the plan today? Well, I had to do some laundry, and then we were going to have lunch, and then he had some homework to finish, and then we were going to go to the supermarket, and then we were going to go to my mom's house for dinner. She lives pretty close by. Guess where I'm going, right? Guess where I'm going to start sending people and directing my assets? The supermarket, the backseat of mom's car, because he might just getting ready to go and waiting for her, and grandma's house. He may have just taken the next step in the plan. Okay, things like that information is critical to starting the search with some kind of intelligence basis. All right. And number four, did something novel happen? Did something happen right before don't say lost him, right before he went missing that hasn't happened before? Did a helicopter fly low over the house? Was there a fire truck going by with its sirens? Is there an ice cream truck on the other side of the neighborhood with its song playing? Are there kids running around and playing close by? Is there a dog barking that really doesn't happen a lot? Does something happen, a novel happen in the area right before he went missing? All right, this information could provide keys to the motivations behind why he is now missing. None of this is foolproof. I get that. And I can't give you a template, all right? I can just give you information. What I do know is this is a much better way to approach these calls than looking for a 8-year-old autistic kid wandering, right? This is a much better way to do it because they are not zombies. They are not robots. They have a goal, purpose, mission, or desire. There's something happen that is drawing them towards it or pushing them away. All right? And if all of this fails and you have nothing else, always, always, always start with sensory. All right? Always start with sensory when you have nothing else. Close your eyes, open your ears, open your nose, smell, listen, taste, touch, feel what's going on around you, and start with sensory. Try to build a sensory profile of this individual. All right? And that's more times than not, that's going to point you in the right direction. All right, now let's go back to the scenario I gave you at the very beginning of this. The scenario was, if you remember, it was a birthday party. It was an 8-year-old missing autistic kid. Middle functioning, it's in the summertime, 90 degrees out. He's been gone for about 35 minutes. And he went missing from a birthday party in a neighborhood he wasn't familiar with. All right, this is the picture. You're going to see the picture on your screen. And I want you to now apply what we just covered with this call for service. Where do you start looking? All right. Now, here's the picture. Now let's make it a video. So not only are we now going to picture a birthday party, but we're going to use our other senses, and I want to apply motion and sound to this birthday party. Because if you're like me, you're thinking a little kid at a birthday party is fantastic. There's all this, there's games and there's friends and there's candy and there's cake and there's all these cool things to do. Why would a little kid wander from a birthday party? Well, let's add some sensory information to it, and let's add noise and movement. Now, why does that matter? Why does knowing the sensory world that this child, quote unquote, wandered from, why does that matter? Well, it matters because of this. Where you're going to find this kid, this wandering, missing 8-year-old autistic kid, isn't randomly walking down the road. He's not going to happen upon a backyard 6 neighborhoods away. Where you're going to find him, this individual who, quote unquote, wandered from this birthday party, is in the backseat of mom's car in the driveway. Because little Billy didn't wander from the birthday party. He escaped the birthday party. He escaped the sensory assault of that birthday party. He had too much information, too much input. He's got all these little kids running around and screaming. He's got the dog barking. He's got the planes flying overhead. It's hot. There's a lot going on visually. He's got mom yelling at him to keep his bathing suit on because we can't get naked because there's people here. And he's got dad telling him to go play with little Tommy over there because little Tommy doesn't have any friends, and get your finger out of your nose, and I don't care if your nose itches, do you need a tissue? And you have all of these things going on in little Billy's world. It's more than just a little kid's birthday party that you or I think. If you apply the sensory part of this, you start to see how this kid is under assault, and it becomes too much and he needs to escape and go someplace quiet. So where's he going to go? He's going to go in the backseat of his car, and you're going to find him with his hands in his ears, with his eyes closed, just rocking back and forth. Now, if it's summertime, it's 90 degrees out, and he's been in that car for 15 minutes, what he's going to do is he's going to fall asleep. And then when he falls asleep, he's going to go unconscious. And you have maybe a half hour to find him before he dies. All right? And this isn't hypothetical. This has happened. I can show you the news stories where massive search endeavors, search and rescue teams, cops, police, fire, EMS, all walk past the driveway 1,000 different times looking for a missing kid. All the while, they're walking right past him, and he's in the trunk of the car or in the back seat of the car, and ends up found days later, deceased, because they focused on the grand scale search and the maps, and they didn't apply very basic information on a sensory level and ask, why does this kid wander, quote unquote, from a birthday party? And it happens a lot. All right. Remember, a lot of our individuals on the spectrum are sensory seeking. They're craving sensory input. Okay, so you're going to find them on high overpasses, on highway overpasses, watching the traffic. And just think about it. Now that you know about the sensory part of this, just think about it. Imagine yourself on an overpass, watching the cars whiz by you underneath with the breeze in your face and the noise. You can understand how that feels good, and you'll find these guys in those positions, high up in trees, in dangerous circumstances, and it's not because they don't understand the danger. It's because their drive to have this sensory experience overwhelms them. My son understands danger very well. I know this because when he was 3 years old and I brought him to my pool to teach him how to swim, I still have the scars in my arms from the experience. He knew damn well that water was dangerous, and he latched on to me like his life depended on it. All right, he understood the danger. But sometimes I think they have a hard time putting together anticipating consequences. I think that's a part of it. And sometimes the drive to experience the sensory part of what they're trying to do overrides their sense of danger. And that's where they get into trouble. All right. You see a picture now that's a picture of my son in a pool. He's not drowning. That's just kind of the way he experienced it. And now that you have the sensory part of this down, you understand how that would make sense. He submerges himself in the pool where just his nose is above the water. His ears are under the water, and he just kind of hangs there and floats. And A, it feels good on his body being in the water, and that feeling of being in the water. B, he closes out the world by putting his ears underneath. And he's able to just calm himself, and it's soothing to be in the water and experience it like that. Okay? That's why when you ask why they're drawn to water, you're starting to get a picture of it. It's things like this. It's sensory. All right? It's sensory. Our guys are often drawn to patterns and contrasts and movements, and like this is another reason why the overpasses will draw them, is they can look down on it and just watch the traffic go by and watch the lights. They'll sit for hours and watch an anthill and watch the movement of it. You'll see them watching crosswalks in the city and watching the patterns of people intermingling. They'll be fascinated by the architecture, the bricks and walls. And if a brick is out of place or it doesn't completely match the pattern, it will set them off and get them upset. And they'll walk in the woods and look at the canopy and watch the light filter through the leaves and be fascinated by all of these things. And it's a beautiful way of looking at the world, and I'm envious of it in a lot of ways. But these types of desires and draws to those sensory experiences a lot of times gets them into trouble and puts them in danger. And that's where we have to apply this knowledge and help find them. All right. If it's not clear, I'm a fan of the autistic mind. I think it's beautiful, and I really do envy my son in a lot of ways, and his ability to experience the world and find beauty in things that you or I kind of ignore or just kind of don't experience. Again, you have to understand that will bring them into dangerous areas. And if you don't respect it, you'll end up missing things. That old moldy couch that's abandoned in the woods in one of your neighborhoods, we wouldn't go near it with a 10-foot pole. But to the child on the spectrum, it may represent the ability to feel this squeezing sensation, and they'll crawl inside of it just to feel the pressure and the squeezing of it. All right, things like that. If you don't approach these calls from an investigator's point of view, with a knowledge of the sensory processing challenges these individuals have, you will miss things like that. All right. I want to end with this quote, and I found this quote on Reddit years ago, and I tried to go back and find the individual who wrote it, and I couldn't, to give her credit. But she's an individual on the spectrum, and somebody asked her that question: why? Why are individuals on the spectrum drawn towards water? Why do they end up drowning so often? What is this thing with water and people on the spectrum? And she explained it like this, and it kind of ties into everything we've covered. She explained that, she says, I literally can't filter out my vision, so I see everything at once. And because of this, water is calming. I can see the waves and the ripples and the textures, and they all form patterns. It's one of the few things I can look at which isn't too overwhelming. There's not many moving things, moving parts, and when it does move, it's all part of the pattern. When you read that and you hear somebody say it, it's damn near poetic. It's beautiful. It's amazing. And what she's doing is she's expressing this sensory part of her world, how she experiences the world. The movement of the water, the calming, the patterns, the way it soothes her and calms her. That's why they're drawn to water. When you fold in how it feels to be swimming and how that feels to be floating in the water, and then the sounds and the trickling of the water over rocks, you can understand how these individuals end up always drawn towards water. I'm drawn towards water. It's beautiful. All right, you can understand it when you look at it from this perspective. And that's all I'm trying to give you is a little perspective. I wish I could just crawl inside my son's head for a little while and just experience the world as he does. I can't. The next best thing I can do is just watch and study and have an open mind to how he experiences the world. And if you can approach these individuals like that, with that sense of awe and respect and genuine curiosity about how they are experiencing the world, then you're on your way. Then you're on your way to being to being what they need, which is a police officer, a first responder, a firefighter who handles them and approaches them from a perspective of empathy. And that's really all they're asking, is to be respected and somebody who has empathy for their challenges and the way they see the world. And that's what I'm asking you. So thank you for your attention. I really appreciate it. I hope you get something out of this that might help you one day. And if there's any assistance I could ever provide you, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm going to give you my personal cell phone number, my email address. If you ever need help, if you're ever in a pinch, if you ever need somebody just to bounce something off of or give you some ideas, please don't hesitate to call me. And I will assist you in any way I can. All right. Thank you for your attention. And be safe out there, please.